Okay, so the two things that we really should only be focusing on, and they're the only two things that are in our control. It's a Stoic philosophy, and it's great. Okay, the two things are simply the only things we have control over are obviously our own actions and our own thoughts. Everything else we shouldn't be too concerned about. Obviously, you're concerned about other things, but the point is that it's to try and prevent unnecessary anxiety, unnecessary, emotions. So things like, anger, say, getting annoyed at somebody else on the roads, which is nothing we can control. And we all know that when it's very hard and it's something you have to work on. I'm not just saying that we can remove all these feelings from our lives. It's impossible. We're humans. This is part of being human. But it's to not, to everybody knows that when they, somebody else, like road rage is a great one. You can be driving to work in the morning and be really happy, and someone else does something really stupid, and it really annoys you. And there's nothing really you can do. Obviously, there's nothing you can do. But the only thing really that you should be doing is reminding yourself that these thoughts are unhelpful, the thoughts in your head, and all I can focus on is the job at hand, so driving to my destination. And having started to do this on a daily basis, yes, I still get annoyed at things, but nowhere near as much. And I spend a lot less time worrying about, pointless stuff that, like I say, I have no control over. If I'm, for example, playing football, the only things that I can dictate is how I play, so how much effort I put in, my concentration levels. There's no point in getting frustrated at the other team if they're doing whatever, or if the referee makes a decision I'm not, convinced about or don't agree with. When you're thinking about those things, especially sport is a great example. You see it in the Premier League, or or the football leagues, or any professional sport, or any sport for that matter. When a player starts focusing more on something that they feel aggrieved by than what actually they should be doing, so whether or not it's playing tennis or, like I say, playing football, so getting back in his head and getting back into position and watching for which players are around him. You see it so many times where a player is playing well and something happens, and it might be unfair, but they lose it. They focus everything on that moment that they don't agree with, and they stop playing how they were playing. And it happens to us all in our lives if we let those types of thoughts control us. So the two things, like I say, that we should really only be worrying about or only be thinking about how we can do is our actions and our thoughts. That's it. You cannot, people get into relationships and try and force the other person to, try to control what's going on and trying to control everything to suit their needs. To me, it's a recipe for disaster, because it's going to annoy the other person. At some point, it's going to start to become annoying, and it's not good for you. You just can't control what another person does, and you shouldn't be able to, because that's part of being a human. Is somebody cannot control me and what's going on in my head. I think that's something that Viktor Frankl's put across when he was in the concentration camps. All the horrible things that were happening to him, he made a decision somewhere along the lines of they cannot, affect how he thinks. They can't have that power over him. That's the one power they don't have over him. And it's something that really it's a very good philosophy. Is those just focusing on those two things. It should prevent certain anxieties, or it should certainly, you can't prevent the anxiety from being there, but you can have skills to tackle the anxiety when it crops up. And it's also, it brings us back into the present moment. So, it links on to mindfulness, where we're not worrying about the two things that we can't change, so the past and the future. We are just focusing on right now, and that's really all that matters. Now, I don't mean this doesn't get tied into the live for the moment. So, people use that term to spend all their money and then worry about, the debt after, which, obviously is a silly way to think. But what it just means is that really what's going on right now, so me doing this video right now, all I'm thinking about is doing this video. I'm trying to do it as well as I possibly can. I shouldn't be now thinking about what am I going to do in 15 minutes time, because I want to do this video well. It's the same when I'm playing football, it's the same when I'm at work, it's the same when I'm with my daughter. Whatever it is I'm doing, I shouldn't be, there's nothing wrong with looking forward to things or reflecting on the past in certain ways, but the past in particular for me can be very unhealthy. I let silly things from the past come up, but now I have the skill, as soon as they come up I can eliminate them, whereas before I let them run wild. Especially at bedtime, things like that, just such silly things that it's the past, I can't change it. It really doesn't matter. Everything in my past, yes, I've had some nice memories and I've got some bad ones, but the bad ones I can learn from and I use those going forward, but I do not dwell on them anymore, because like I said, I can't control them, I can't get rid of them, and thinking about them isn't going to make them go away or make them change. They are what they are, and ultimately as well, the future isn't here yet. You can't, yes, it's good to plan. That's great, and I'm all for that, and looking forward to things. But really, you want to be trying to focus on what you're doing right now and get the most out of that, whatever it may be. Because, life is in some ways very short. People, some people's lives are cut short, and we don't know when ours might get cut short. Hopefully it won't. But, the life is there to be lived, and, it really does, in my mind now, it depends how much I want to be happy. Yes, there's certain things that can control my happiness to a degree, but it really is about what I focus on. A lot of unhappiness or a lot of bad feelings and anxiety is what you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're not focusing on the good things. That was something that I was terrible for. In the past, when I had, I was stuck in a negative mindset. I could not see the positive in anything. People would compliment me and things, and I would just discard them because, I either thought they were just being nice and, not lying in a bad way, but, what they were saying wasn't true. Instead of taking them as the compliments they were, because I was so negative. But I changed it with lots of things, but by just being more positive, focusing on the positive of every situation, even the bad ones. What positive can I take from this? Instead of watching, I turned the news off. So instead of watching the news, which is 99.9% negative, for a reason, I started turning that off and focusing on what was good in my life. What could I appreciate? Things like my daughter, things like the home that I've refurbished for myself. I've decorated and had lots of things, done to it. I've done a lot of it myself. Focus on these things. I'm lucky that I've got, running water. Focusing that I've got heating and clothing and, the things, all things, that I need. I've pretty much got them all. And these are the things that I focus on now, not the bad stuff. Bad stuff crops up from now and again, but like I say, if you've got some skills to deal with it, it does make life much easier. And I say, when you do narrow it down into the two things that you have control of, your thoughts and your actions, you can focus on those, and you worry a lot less about stupid stuff that you have no control over, and you start to worry about you. So you start to work on yourself, you start to work on your thoughts, like I say, you start to concentrate more on what you're doing, etc. It's a really, really good philosophy. I'm really glad that I read the lines that I did, and it's helped me a lot, and hopefully it can help somebody else. So please subscribe to the videos. If you like, or if you've had any help from any of my videos, or this one in particular, post a comment below, and I wish you the best of luck.